Bitcoin prediction with a time date. He said the Bitcoin bottom is in. 60K was the bottom, that we are now in the spring. But I think the most interesting thing that he probably revealed in this 10-minute interview is regarding how much Bitcoin he aims to buy between now and 2140. Literally after he's even on planet Earth, he still has a plan to be buying Bitcoin. So I went through the whole interview again this morning. It was on CNBC on Squawk Box. It was about a 10-minute interview. I highly recommend you watch it, especially to really understand what the stretch product is compared to the common stock MSTR, how they all work together, what are some of the macro tailwinds that he's expecting. But I just clipped it down to a 2-minute, just got you the most bullish parts on this interview. And, you know, it's a Thursday. I know we're in the depths of a bear market, but we gotta give you some hopium on the day ending in Y. So again, short clip. I clipped it together. Here's Saylor this morning on Squawk Box.
Overall, have a feeling about whether this, would you call this a crypto winter or a crypto pseudo winter that we've been through for a while? Are we closer to the end, or do you even care at this point?
I think so. I mean, I think we were at the top in October, about 125. I think we bottomed at 60. I think we're moving into the spring phase. We've got decent support here in these levels. I think we'll rally from here. We're just working against a few macro headwinds right now.
For people that don't follow it that closely, I mean, there are halvings that happen, then it gets harder and harder to mine at some point. Even though we're getting close to maximum number, but where are we out of the 121 million? We at?
The next halving's in 2 years.
And we're at what right now? Like it's like asymptotic. We get towards the end, it gets harder and harder to mine and it'll be a couple hundred years before we get to 121 million.
There's not much Bitcoin left, because at this point, all of the organic supply of Bitcoin being produced by the miners is being taken up by the Bitcoin.
And you bought more than was mined this year for strategy.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, the formation of digital credit means that the credit market itself is absorbing all of the organic supply of Bitcoin from now to forever. Our company will probably buy all of the Bitcoin gets produced by the miners between here and the year 2140. Then there's no more Bitcoin.
So people that have $1 million have had $1 million target on Bitcoin. You think it's just a matter of time?
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin's going up forever, Joe.
And if it finally was completely stable and reflected what 121 million, the end result, what would it reach? And I assume it'd just stay there. What price are we talking about? Have you done the math on that?
Well, I think 21 years out, I don't know why it wouldn't be 21 million a coin.
21 million a coin. Okay.
Wait, hold on. My favorite part was at the very end, where I don't know if you guys have had this experience before, and I'm gonna unpack everything he said in that clip, but I do want to just comment on the very end of that clip where I don't know if you've had this experience, but when you talk to people and you just give them basically the most bullish Bitcoin prediction, and they just respond with like, oh, $21 million per Bitcoin in 21 years. Okay, cool story. Next topic. And I feel like that's exactly what happened there. And Joe Kernan, come on, it's 21 million Bitcoin. Joe Kernan, I've been saying for a while, is one of the best Bitcoin podcasters. Maybe he just had a and I'm not trying to be mean here, but maybe he just had a boomer moment where he kept saying 121 million. It's 21 million Bitcoin. 21 million Bitcoin. That's all the Bitcoin that will ever be created. But maybe it's just, it's early morning. We'll let it slide. We'll let it slide. But that last part really got me. The 21 million Bitcoin. Okay. All right. Anyways, we got to wrap up the show. That was the end of the interview. So you just love to see it. Okay. So anyways, let me start from the beginning of the clip. So again, this was a 10-minute interview on CNBC on Squawk Box this morning. Highly recommend you go watch the whole thing. It is pretty bullish. There is a lot of really good insights on the digital credit market. What Saylor, I think this is probably, I've watched the quarterly reports on strategy. I've tried to understand what the stretch product is. As you guys know, I've had people email me basically like, yo, I don't think you understand exactly what he's doing. I've been saying for a while, I really don't understand what he's doing. But if you do watch that clip this morning, the whole clip, I think this is probably the easiest explanation of what Saylor is doing with the stretch product, with digital credit, and with the MSTR common stock. So I highly recommend you go watch the whole thing. Really good clip. And then, of course, I did just kind of clip it up for you guys so you guys can get the most bullish bits of this. But again, starting from the beginning, I've been saying for a minute, and maybe this is why I wanted to play it for you guys on the show, but I'm also of the opinion that 60K was the bottom. Yes, we're kind of, I didn't even check what the price is currently before I went live, but it's what, 70 here. Actually, let me double check to confirm here. It's still 77,200. Okay. So yes, we haven't been able to break above that 82, 83, 84 range yet. We did basically bounce off the 200-day moving average, and that is basically the level that everyone is watching right now, and we have kind of pulled back a little bit. Yes, yesterday the price was positive. We saw some positive price action. This morning, it seems like yesterday's entire candle just completely got erased. So we are in a moment right now of, hey, we really don't know if the price is going up. Is it going down? What is Bitcoin actually reacting to? Obviously, as you heard in the clip, there is a lot of macro headwinds right now. In particular, what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in the treasury markets, what's going on with the oil prices, what's going on with inflation. I've covered all of these for you guys the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks of where we currently stand in the macro picture. But as you've probably heard, and, Nico's not here to defend himself, so I'm not going to go too hard on Nico's prediction. But everyone that is still of the opinion that we are in a almost exact 4-year cycle playing out is basically saying that we're going to be going down or sideways until October of 2026. That until Q4 of this year, we are most likely going to see one more huge dump before we start to make our climb back up for 2027 and 2028 and beyond. Now, as you guys know, that hasn't been my opinion. I am leaning more towards what Saylor has been saying, or at least rather what Saylor said in that clip this morning. I also believe that 60K was probably the bottom, that we are starting to see this climb back up, or as I believe it was Bitwise, Matt Hogan of Bitwise has been saying, and I think Vanek even said it, and Fidelity said something similar, that where we currently are in the markets in terms of price is that we are going to be seeing this slow grind up. And if you are looking at where we currently stand, that seems to be what we've seen since February, and we hit that 60K bottom. That we have maybe not an explosive move up on the upside yet, but that we are starting to get a little life back into the price. And, 60K was the bottom, and now we've starting to move back up towards 80K. Yes, there's a little bit of volatility. It got pushed down a little bit. But I'm also of the opinion that I think 60K was the bottom. Now, again, this is not financial advice, but hey, I'm not the rocket scientist here claiming 60K bottom. I am the 42 IQ talking head on YouTube claiming my gut feeling is I think we've already bottomed. And I've made the case for this on the show multiple times that, maybe the 4-year cycle top in October at 126 played out perfectly because it was 18 months since the halving. But as we've all kind of started to grapple with is the idea that we didn't get a blow off top. So I wouldn't expect a very, very strong dip into that 70, 80% range on the low end, which as of now, we've totally, been able to hold the prices that we're holding. And even though I have been attributing that to Saylor himself, it does seem like Strategy is the only one buying a big amount of Bitcoin currently. Now, obviously, I've ran through the numbers. The market is bigger than just Michael Saylor, right? But that's where that second portion of the clip really comes in. Saylor himself just said the digital credit phenomenon that we're watching, the stretch product, and now also SATA from Strive. Yes, they are not as big as Strategy, or big, they're not attracting as much volume as the stretch product is, but this digital credit idea is catching on. And again, even though Saylor himself would not attribute strategy for being the company driving or the force driving the Bitcoin price, the idea of him alone, one company, one person basically being able to buy all of the Bitcoin that is being released from the miners, the new daily mine supply of Bitcoin being gobbled up by one entity. Yes, maybe that is only a small portion of the total liquidity market of Bitcoin, but if there is one entity that is scooping up all of that Bitcoin, this isn't happening in a vacuum. And I think that's the bigger idea. It's like, it's not just Saylor in this market, but if one entity is buying up all of the newly organic mine supply, as Saylor likes to say, when you factor in that it's not just Saylor in the market, that's when you start to be like, wow, maybe we aren't bullish enough. Maybe we do have PTSD. Maybe we are still living in an old perspective of how Bitcoin is going to work now that the institutions are here. Now that Wall Street is here, and full disclosure, I think we are still overly bullish on how Wall Street is viewing Bitcoin. I think they're obviously begrudgingly getting into Bitcoin. They're not like full-blown bulls on Bitcoin. I think they're just looking at it as like, hey, there's profits to be made in that market. So we're gonna dabble. We're gonna play in the market. And if you know anything about Wall Street, any like rudimentary understanding of Wall Street is they'll make money on the price going up and the price going down. They'll long, they'll short. They're not really ideologically committed to any single asset. The only thing they're committed to is making more profits. And so if they see an avenue for them to make profits with the price going sideways, with the price going down, with the price going up, they will just follow the trend. They will follow where the winds are blowing. And so they are, at least in the current moment, in the short term here, are basically just looking at Bitcoin as a way to get more dollars, right? They're just like, okay, it's just something new to trade. It's just a new market for us to trade, to make profits off of. But there will be a point, and I think this is all connecting with the fact that strategy itself, MSTR itself, is going to be buying all of the Bitcoin that will be mined from here until forever, from now until our lives are over, basically. Saylor wants to buy all of the daily mine Bitcoin. Again, that's just one entity. But once the idea of true scarcity finally hits and Wall Street finally understands that, whoa, this Bitcoin thing isn't just something we want to trade. It is something that we need to hold because of the, quote, digital scarcity idea, because of true scarcity, because of the hard capped market of Bitcoin, aka the 21 million hard cap of Bitcoin. Then the mentality does shift, and it's no longer just something to trade, which is what we've all understood. If you are a Bitcoin maxi, and even that name in itself, it's been attributed to us Bitcoiners that just like to buy and hold Bitcoin for the long term by a shitcoiner, by Vitalik Buterin of Ethereum. And once the world, and again, I've seen you guys in the chat say like, oh, he's always doing if this happens and what if this happens, etc. But there will be a point where people understand what we understand, that Bitcoin isn't something you want to trade. It's not something to just get more dollars in. It is the money. It is the unit of account. It is the store of value. And once that idea clicks for everyone, then that's when the race really starts to pick up. Saylor's already been doing it. But still, if you watch that entire clip, he does go into why someone would want to buy Stretch or MSTR versus just buying Bitcoin. A lot of people are still scared away from the volatility of Bitcoin, and there will be a point eventually in the foreseeable future, as he said in the last part of that clip, maybe 21 years from now, where Bitcoin is a lot more stable, where it just accrues value in a more a slower volatile range. It just kind of constantly goes up, like the national debt, like GDP. It doesn't move in these big volatile roller coaster like moves, but we're not there yet. Saylor's way ahead of the game. If you are a hardcore Bitcoiner, if you are a Bitcoin maxi, if you sold all your shares, if you hodl, if you've been in Bitcoin for years, you already are thinking in these types of perspectives, in this vantage point of, I just want Bitcoin. I want to acquire it. I'm playing Pac-Man with Bitcoin. I just want to get my hands on as much as I possibly can. I got to, minimize my expenses. I got to raise my cash flow so that I can acquire more of this Bitcoin, because it is truly scarce and nothing else comes close to that scarcity. And the upside of holding Bitcoin for the long term, nothing else will come close to this, because it's my money. Yes, there will be other, higher returns potentially. As I've been mentioning, AI bubble has been going pretty good. Like if you've held NVIDIA the last 6 years, you're absolutely killing it. If you were able to ride the MSTR kind of wave up and down, you've made a killing. If you bought MSTR in 2020 to now, you've made a killing. Or rather, if you bought it in 2020 and you sold the absolute top, like you're sitting pretty, right? But the majority of people, they're like me. I always say, actually, shout out to our bro, Mike Germano. He said something the other day, and it was super funny and so on point. He's like, look, I'm smart enough to understand Bitcoin, but I understand I'm too dumb to trade anything else. And I just thought that was so on point, because that's kind of how I view it. Like, yeah, I'm smart enough to understand Bitcoin, but I know I'm not that smart to out trade the algorithmic traders, to be a part of all the groups. And I don't have the bandwidth to be in all the shitcoin scam groups and, understand the trading and the TA and know where all the inside scoop is. I'm like, I just buy Bitcoin. It makes my life easier. I hodl it. Don't touch it for the long run. That's where we are. Because I already think in this term of scarcity, of like, oh, Bitcoin's the best money. But the majority of people do not think of Bitcoin in that terms. But Saylor obviously does. He's like, I'm going to buy every single mined Bitcoin here until there's no Bitcoin left. And that is just one entity. Now, wait until Wall Street catches up on this, till all of the public companies catch up on this, until individuals and nation states start to catch on to this very idea. This could get way more out of hand. And that's where I'm like, we're not bullish enough. We are completely not bullish enough, especially because the last few kind of cycles since 2020, they haven't been, like, yeah, the 2021 bull run was like, okay, but it was nothing like the 2017 bull run. The 2025 bull run was like, okay, we made a new all-time high, but we barely made a new all-time high. We are definitely getting jaded right now, but we have PTSD because we are expecting such grand movements in Bitcoin, and we just haven't really seen them in the last two cycles, the last two all-time highs. Yes, if you bought in, 2020, 2018, etc., you're sitting pretty, you're happy, you're like, yeah, I'm in the green, everything's good. But if you're looking back at the price action of Bitcoin in the previous cycles, the 2017, the 2013, 2014 one, you're like, I'm missing out on all the gains. Like, are we ever going to get gains like that again? And everyone keeps saying the same thing, that, oh, bigger number market cap means Bitcoin is going to have a harder time to have bigger number gain. And I just fundamentally, I'm just like, I don't think that that's the case. I just don't think that many people hold Bitcoin, or rather, I don't think that that many people understand Bitcoin like we do in a truly scarce mentality. Everyone's just kind of looking at Bitcoin as an investment, as just a little bit of, I just need a little bit of exposure. I'll get a little bit of dollars out of it. And that's basically what that Federal Reserve poll said yesterday that I covered, is that, allegedly there's a lot of numbers going around. You know, they say maybe like 30 million people hold 30 million to, I don't know, 50 million Americans hold Bitcoin. I think Saylor in that clip this morning, he said like 900 million people worldwide hold it. But the poll said 10% of the US population holds Bitcoin or crypto assets, but very few of them view Bitcoin as a money, as something that is truly scarce. And this is where it's like, oh, once that understanding kicks in, and maybe it won't, maybe, you know, I have a little too much faith in the masses and they'll never think of Bitcoin in that way. But once that idea really does hold, that's when this game really gets crazy. And that's why I think it's such a huge deal of Saylor being like, I'm going to buy all the Bitcoin for the next 100+ years. Now, obviously, I don't know what Saylor's view is. I don't know if like he's a transhumanist and he's like, put my brain in a, you know, in a vat here, and I just make sure my brain, you know, in some a Futurama status where I'm just a brain in a what do you call it, in a box here, and I will be running strategy forever. Joe was kind of trolling him. He's like, whoever your successor is will have to follow your plan. So even if we don't go down a transhumanist perspective here, Strategy's plan is to do this forever, which really leads into Strategy is probably going to be the biggest company on planet Earth at some point. Right now, it's not. But at some point, if they are able to acquire 1 million Bitcoin, or like this clip basically insinuates 2 million plus Bitcoin, because the last 1 million Bitcoin is what Saylor wants to buy. He's almost, you know what, he's 12 billion away from acquiring 1 million Bitcoin now, let alone what he wants to acquire for the next 100+ years. Strategy seems to be hell-bent on acquiring about 10% of the total Bitcoin supply, or over 2 million Bitcoin. If he's able to acquire 2 million Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes into the millions or 10 millions, 20 millions, like he said in the end of that clip, Strategy is probably going to be the biggest company on planet Earth, which is just crazy to see happen, and watch where we currently are and the potential of where we could be. It's just like, wow. All right. Saylor really is a genius in what he's doing here. But then the last one, obviously, I had to stick in a little bit of I had to add the little bullish ending of that $21 million Bitcoin in 21 years. Even if that is bearish, and sometimes I like to troll and say that is extremely bearish, you know, that's a pretty good return. All right? That's a pretty good return. I think we'll be all very happy here in 21 years. I mean, I'll be what, in my 50s? Damn, man. 50s. In my 50s. Dude, I'm going to be doing this until my 50s. Crazy. But 21 million Bitcoin in 21 years. And I did try, as I told you guys, I did try to get Luke on this week. I don't think he's going to be able to make it tomorrow, but I think I might get him on Monday's show. And he was throwing around the B word of where he thinks Bitcoin's going to go. And I'm like, dude, like, you're even more bullish than I can even imagine. And as I don't know if you guys can tell, but like, I am kind of fighting a cold right now. And I literally told him, I'm like, look, my brain's not really working right now, so I'm gonna come back to you on what you just said. So Monday, I think I'm gonna get Luke on at the very least on the culture, if possible. He might come on a little earlier, and we're gonna give you a bullish, like stupidly bullish Monday. And yeah, I was like, dude, he's like 21 million in 21 years. He's like, nah, dude, I think it's going to be way higher. And I'm going to not spoil it for you guys, but let me just tell you, it's a bigger number than that. And I was like, dude, like, talk about some hopium. But, and like I started this clip, I am reminded of my friend, Uncle Rockstar Dev. And he was going around, I forget if it was the end of last year or the beginning of this year. And he's like, you need to be so bullish that people think you are stupid, that people think you're an idiot because you are saying just incredibly insane price predictions of Bitcoin. He's like, you need to be so bullish, people think you're an idiot. And I got that vibe from the very end of that clip, which is interesting because Joe Kernan, like, he's a Bitcoiner. He's been very pro Bitcoin. He's been on Squawk Box talking about Bitcoin. And actually being very favorable towards Bitcoin. And yet, $21 million price prediction in 21 years, he was like, okay, anyways, let's wrap up this segment. He's like, that's too crazy to say on cable TV here. And you just love to see it. You just love to see it. Maybe we are towards the end of a bear market, because once you start feeling once you start hearing crazy price predictions, you're like, oh man, the bull market vibe is coming back when we all start making insanely bullish price predictions. And he did the classic, it's going up forever, Laura. You know, it's like, it's going to continue to go up forever. We're going to buy forever. Price is going to go up forever. 21 years, 21 million easily. It's like, all right, I'm starting to get some life back in me, guys. I'm starting to get the bullish, bull-tard energy back in me. You know, the bear market's been a little demoralizing. I'm not going to lie. Showing up day in and day out, talking about Bitcoin during this bear market. It's taken its toll. It's taken a little bit of my soul. I'll tell you that much. As you guys know, I've been going absolutely crazy on the show. I'm literally, monologuing to myself. It's like I'm talking into a mirror for an hour and a half, day in and day out. And I'm on my last threads, boys. So this is why I'm probably confirming my own bias here. I'm like, no, we're gonna make it out of this bear market. Like 60K was the bottom. We're gonna start our climb up again. Look, the hopium isn't just for you. It's not just for the views. Okay, the hopium is for me. I do this for me, okay? The hopium is to get me up in the morning, make sure I'm able to make some content that you guys enjoy. But I need the hopium to keep going, guys. So we're in this together. We are in this together. Any day that ends in a Y, we will be dropping the hopium. But on a more serious note, and again, forgive me, guys. I am like fighting a cold right now. Hopefully, I don't actually get sick. I didn't feel so good this morning. I think it's over. I took a little Dayquil. I ate a good bacon, egg, and cheese bagel this morning, and I'm starting to feel a little better. So hopefully I'm not just completely out of commission tomorrow, and I'm able to actually do the show for you guys tomorrow. But it's starting to come back. The life is starting to come back to me about like, okay, no, we're out of this bear market. And I know Saylor's been doubling down on this for the last couple of weeks. I was looking back at some of our old videos, and Saylor has been continuously doubling down on 60K being the bottom. The dump is over, slow grind up. So as you guys know, I believe the experts when they confirm what I believe. So Saylor saying what I've been saying. So I'm obviously going to highlight that. But again, on a more serious note, if you understand the very simple idea of everything divided by 21 million, which is, a little hyperbolic, but you start to understand that in reality, the price predictions really don't matter. All you need to know is I want to acquire as much Bitcoin as humanly possible for me. I want to hold this for the long term. I need to self-custody that so I get it off the exchanges so that I'm in control of this. And let bygones be bygones. If you are obsessed with Bitcoin, the day-to-day kind of news story, breaking news, the headlines, the price action, all of that stuff does, it keeps your attention. You do become obsessed with Bitcoin. But in reality, all you really need to know, and it's a super simple idea, and I don't know how I continue to talk about it every single day, but it's literally just buy Bitcoin continuously, hold the Bitcoin for the long term, and make sure it's in self-custody. Make sure it's off the exchanges. Make sure you actually control that Bitcoin. And everything else really doesn't matter. Everything else is noise. Once that you get that message, you can literally hang up the phone, as the famous saying is. Once you get the message, hang up the phone. Now, I am basically saying you don't have to watch the show in some respects, but I want you to watch the show. I want you to hang out with me. But really, in reality, once that message clicks, everything else is noise. Just acquire Bitcoin, take it into custody, continue to hold it for the long term. That's literally all you have to do. I've been saying this multiple ways in multiple different episodes, actually 1,500 episodes, saying basically the same thing. Just buy Bitcoin, store that Bitcoin in your custody, and hold it for the long term. And don't just stop with buying it one time. That is the fundamental message of this whole show. Everything else is just icing on top of the cake. Everything else is just to try to get your attention on that very idea of continuously buying Bitcoin, continuously taking that Bitcoin into custody, and holding that Bitcoin for the long term. That is all. That is all. That is the finite end of this whole thing. It's all you got to do. Anyways, Nico going mad right now. I know. So I wait and buy more. No, you buy more and then you wait. You got it flipped. Okay. Anyways, actually, so today's going to be a little different. We also have a very, very special guest today. Forgive me, I'm probably going to butcher your last name, but we got Eugene Jarecki. Eugene Jarecki, I think. He was at the Bitcoin conference. He's seeking the Bitcoin community because he made, from what it looks like to me, an amazing Julian Assange documentary that is being blocked. So he's going to be on the show in about 20-ish minutes. So depending on how long I ramble, I might change the show a little bit, but I don't know if you guys saw, we got a huge announcement from the SpaceX IPO, how much Bitcoin they hold. And if I'm able to get into the news, depending, again, if our guest comes in early, I really want to give him a lot of time on today's show. So it might not be 4 segments. It might just be 3 segments. That's what we're going to be doing today. Okay. So quick commercial break and I will be right back and we will be going over the numbers.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
Ooh, guys. You know, we're like Bitcoin. We don't take days off, and This day close kicking my ass today. All right. Anyways, the current Bitcoin price is 77,240. The discount from all-time high is 38.8%. The Bitcoin market cap in dollar terms is 1.55 trillion, and the block height is, hold on, let's refresh this. Block height is 950,394. I repeat, 950,394. Okay, guys. So I am going to change this up a little bit. If you watch the show, then you know that usually the numbers is I play another clip, but this does have to do with numbers. Okay. So this was revealed yesterday, which is absolutely insane, to be honest. So SpaceX reveals $1 billion Bitcoin holdings ahead of historic IPO. Here's how much the Elon Musk-led company paid for its coins. So this is on Yahoo Finance. So as you might know, SpaceX is trying to go public. They're going to IPO here soon. It's probably going to be like one of the biggest IPOs in history. Well, it turns out they're holding a ton of Bitcoin. Now, I'm going to cover how much Bitcoin they hold. Obviously, it's the numbers. But also, we are going to look at some of the Elon Musk tweets. And I know a lot of us basically like, who cares what Elon says? But it is very interesting that Elon has had that saga where he was like, until Bitcoin is 51% mined with green energy, like we're not going to be embracing Bitcoin throughout the whole time. You know, he's never sold any of his Bitcoin, but also he's been very quiet on Bitcoin. And then we will look at what the implications are for when it does go public and where it will be on the Bitcoin treasury holding list. So here we go. So SpaceX, the space exploration company led by Elon Musk, disclosed in its IPO filing on yesterday, that it holds more than $1 billion in Bitcoin. The company disclosed it holds 18,712 Bitcoin on hand as of March 31st, recognized at a fair value of $1.29 billion. At current prices, this stash would be worth $1.45 billion. The total cost basis of these holdings was reported at $661 million, implying an average acquisition cost of around $35,324 per Bitcoin. The company, here's a quote, the company has ownership of and control over its digital assets, which consists of Bitcoin, and utilizes and expect to continue to utilize third-party custodians to hold its Bitcoin. Not the best portion about this, but hey, it's probably like Coinbase Prime, most likely. Which, again, from a personal perspective, don't leave your coins on the exchanges. Anyways, SpaceX Bitcoin holdings have attracted significant attention, with on-chain data often indicating transfers. The latest filing added a stamp of confirmation. Notably, Musk's other companies, Tesla, also owns a large Bitcoin position, 11,509 Bitcoin, currently worth more than $895 billion. So, under Musk companies, that's what? Someone quick math me. 18,712 plus 11,509, 30,000, rounding up about 30,000 Bitcoin under Elon Musk controlled companies. That's a significant amount of Bitcoin. Like, it ain't no small chump change here. But here is where you start to see, Musk has, if you follow him on Twitter, actually, you don't even have to follow him on Twitter. Everyone sees his post, right? If you're on Twitter, you see Elon Musk post, whether you follow him or not. Probably has something to do with being the God King of Twitter. You get the most exposure. But if you've seen or been on Twitter the last year or so, we do see a lot of Musk tweets where you're like, dude, he's a Bitcoiner. He understands this. He's got to understand this, because even though he very publicly came out and was like, until Bitcoin is 51% green energy, we're not going to accept Bitcoin, and we've been selling some, and we don't really believe in it. And we haven't really heard him say much about Bitcoin. But now with his IPO filing, it's becoming very obvious. Like, he's got a huge stack. He's been hodling. He understands Bitcoin, which And then also the whole Doge thing, he's been trolling that Doge is going to be the world reserve currency of the world. He's just a troll. He's just the autistic billionaire, richest man on the world that just likes to troll. Can you really blame him? Anyways, let's look at some of the breadcrumbs we've seen on Twitter. So here's a zero hedge. This is from October. A couple of days after the crash in 2025 in October. So has anybody done the math? How many hundreds of new nuclear power plants the U.S. will need by 2028 for all these AI daily circle jerk deals to be powered? Quote tweet, another one from Zero Hedge. The money is not the problem. AI is the new global arms race, and CapEx will eventually be funded by governments, U.S. and China. And if you want to know why gold, silver, Bitcoin is soaring, it's the, quote, debasement to fund the AI arms race. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that last part, but finish the tweet. But you can't print energy. Elon Musk. True. That is why Bitcoin is based on energy. You can issue fake fiat currency, and every government in history has done so, but it is impossible to fake energy. Again, October 14th, 2025. Going further, here's another kind of AI framed tweet exchange. And he goes, energy is the true currency. It's almost like, having a money that is backed by energy. That's basically that is what Bitcoin is. It's almost like he knows. It's almost like he knows. And we've been speculating for a while whether this is why he's a Bitcoiner or not. But more recently, here in February of this year, quoting them all, there is unlimited demand for intelligence, and Elon goes true. Once the solar energy generation to robot manufacturing to chip fabrication to AI loop is closed, conventional currency will just get in the way. Just wattage and tonnage will matter, not dollars. Now, even though he is a Bitcoiner, and at this point, I think we can put it to rest that Elon Musk is a Bitcoiner. He's also given some very bad advice on Twitter, basically said the most infamous one, you don't have to save money because, UBI is coming and AI is going to make us so productive that there's no point in saving any money. And it's look, maybe that's true, but the richest man in the world is telling average people don't save money because your life's going to be more productive. And that's just bad, extremely bad financial advice. Just don't do that. You need to save a little bit. Now, as I said on yesterday's show, maybe saving on, a packed lunch and eating a 10-year-old PB&Js all the time is probably not going to make you the richest man in the world. And actually, on that note, before I, expand more, did you guys see that Jeff Bezos interview yesterday? I saw all the clips. Dude, when Jeff Bezos hits, when Jeff Bezos is right, and I agree with him, it's what world are we living in? But he was going pretty hard on the taxes. He went hard on the idea of why billionaires are able to create $1 billion, really throwing shots at AOC and the very far left progressives, saying, what is the quote they always say, there shouldn't be any billionaires that's built on the exploitation of, the working class or whatever they say. It was a great interview. Highly recommend you guys check that out a little bit. Yeah, maybe don't agree with everything, but it is interesting the shift in the conversation that we are seeing currently. It does seem like we are moving towards a more Bitcoin-esque world. It really feels that way to me. Anyways, enough rambling about the Elon Musk tweets and stuff, because you probably don't care. I can already hear you guys saying it's Opti, we don't care what Elon Musk thinks. Yeah, well, if the richest man in the world's companies are holding a shit ton, and that is a scientific term, of Bitcoin, and he is breadcrumbing that Bitcoin is going to take over the world, you'd expect people to listen, right? Maybe not. A lot of people don't like Elon Musk. But anyways, here we go. So again, to recap, SpaceX is out to IPO. It's going to have a historic, what's seemingly going to be the biggest IPO in history, going from a private company to a public company. And in the IPO filing, we find out that they hold 18,000 712 Bitcoin. And looking at the, am I showing it? Yeah, okay. Looking at the public Bitcoin treasury companies, again, given if this IPO succeeds, which it's most likely going to be able to go public, where would that put this on the list of public Bitcoin treasury companies? It would be above Coinbase at number 7. And that's if they don't buy any more Bitcoin moving forward. So when SpaceX goes public here very shortly, they are going to be the 7th biggest public Bitcoin treasury company in the world. And as you can see, Tesla is currently at 12. 2 Elon Musk controlled companies with a combined, 30,000 coins. Hypothetically, you put them together, that's going to be somewhere around the 5th largest public Bitcoin treasury. Obviously, their treasuries are separate, so it's not really apples and oranges. But alone, SpaceX will be the 7th largest Bitcoin treasury company in the world. Yeah, I agree. There are people that, that's the public list. There are people that probably have more money than Elon Musk. In particular, I think, and this might be rumors, but from the rumors I've heard, isn't like Putin one of the richest men? Now, obviously, I know where you're going with this, like the central, the controllers of the central banks, they're the ones that really have the most wealth. The royal families, the 13 families, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know that's where you're going. I know that's where you're going with this. But I've seen a couple of, I think, speculations. We really don't know, but I think Putin also one of the richest men on planet Earth. But the public list, okay? Not going into speculation and hearsay here. Public list. Elon Musk, richest man in the world. And his company's about to go public here. So, okay, guys, perfect timing. Our guest is here. So I'm going to do the commercials back to back here. And then we're going to be talking about the $6 billion man, the movie by Eugene about Julian Assange. So this commercial break is going to be a little longer. I'm going to bring in the guests. We're going to do a super awesome interview. I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with 0 penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Bitkey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you already know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. Bitkey fixes that. Bitkey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named Bitkey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's bitkey.world with the code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high-performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, You've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail, and hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
Eugene, thank you so much for coming on the show. First of all, how do I pronounce your last name? I don't want to butcher it.
No problem, Jarecki.
Jarecki. Okay, so yeah. Eugene Jarecki, filmmaker of the $6 Billion Man, a documentary that was previewed at the Bitcoin Conference 2026 in Las Vegas about Julian Assange. So I do have the trailers and stuff here, but before, I think for our audience, if they didn't watch the present fireside chat at the Bitcoin Conference, maybe just give them a little bit of context, maybe a little recap of the fireside chat, why you made the movie, and then why you are now talking to the Bitcoin community, and then we can play the trailers, as the conversation goes. So first of all, let's talk about what is this movie about for our audience that they might not be familiar with. Again, probably didn't see the fireside chat. And then I'll lead the conversation into how you ended up in the Bitcoin space in general.
Okay, happy to talk about all of it. Thank you for the welcome. So I made this movie about Julian Assange. Took about 6 or 7 years to make, and the reason I made it was that information came to my attention and the attention of my team that had never been seen by the world. The information was staggering and very, very disturbing about the lengths that the United States government had gone to destroy Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks. And for people who may or may not remember, WikiLeaks was and is, but began as an organization where whistleblowers in governments or corporations or other organizations could, for the first time in history, safely upload secrets to the public and let the public know things they felt the public needed to know about the military they were serving in, or the government they were a part of, or the corporation, etc. Previously in history, if you were a whistleblower, you had to, it's like all the president's men, you had to go into a parking garage and in dark shadows and slide a briefcase across the asphalt. And what Julian Assange did with WikiLeaks was he brought us into the digital age. He made it possible using an anonymous Dropbox for everyday people who needed to share a secret with the world to share it with people. And I found that remarkable at the time, as many of us did. In fact, many Bitcoiners did, and we can talk about that. But all these years later, making a film about him, I found that what happened at the time was still happening, which was that instead of being praised as a sharer of the kind of secret information that you need in a democracy for the public to be the public and make the decisions we all need to make to shape our lives, well, the gatekeepers, the powers that be, they went after Julian Assange and sought to destroy him. And when I learned the full details of that story, I felt the need to test it, to tell that story, to really put it, I guess, to the test to see where did truth lie, who was in the right, who was in the wrong, where was the real story. And we found staggering evidence of crimes committed against all of us, not just against Julian Assange, whether one likes him or not, but on truth-telling itself. And that brought me to the Bitcoin space, but we can talk about that separately.
Yeah, I do have the Bitcoin trailer. Maybe right now is the best time to play that trailer, and then we can continue the conversation.
Sounds good.
Okay.
WikiLeaks ought to be charged with treason. That's what they've done.
If wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth.
This was a big problem. These are anarchists that have the keys to your castle, and you can't call a fucking locksmith.
Shut it down, this terrorist website, WikiLeaks.
A financial blockade by Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal has destroyed our revenue.
PayPal suspended WikiLeaks' account after the State Department sent a letter declaring the website illegal.
The banking blockade to stop donations forced WikiLeaks to find an alternate source of funding. So the site became one of the first major organizations to accept Bitcoin, to keep fighting.
Now, the most interesting thing happening is Bitcoin. The ability to defend against the full might of a superpower.
This is a David versus Goliath battle.
Eugene, what I find interesting here, and I was watching the fireside chat, it was great. But while I just rewatched the trailer, I found it interesting correlation between the fact that you're doing a Julian Assange documentary and then the connection of why you're now involved with the Bitcoin community. It's a very similar tale. You know, WikiLeaks, they got their financials shut off, and so they use Bitcoin, and WikiLeaks is one of the fundamental stories in Bitcoin. And now with you as a just filmmaker, you just make this movie, and from the fireside chat, you know, it's interesting to me that the reason you're with Bitcoiners now is something very similar, is people don't want this movie to be seen. And it's almost, to me, there's a parallel between the WikiLeaks story and how now you are talking to Bitcoiners about this film, just where you currently are. So maybe for the audience here, maybe give them the context of why you now are reaching out to the Bitcoin community after you made this film, 6 years of your life. And now it seems like they don't want people to watch this film.
Right. Yeah, they don't. And well, I faced this crazy situation. The film won the Cannes Film Festival, which is the be all and end all for anybody like me, is to win Cannes. And then we even won a Golden Globe, the first Golden Globe ever given to a documentary. And you would have thought that my ship had come in and that the film was going to be the most popular film in history. But nobody wanted to pick it up. The streamers, all mainstream media won't touch it. And it goes to show you, and I'm not the only film that has experienced something like this. The film No Other Land, for example, came out, won the Oscar, and then couldn't get a distributor. And there are more and more stories of this. Why? Because the mainstream media system is controlled by the same kind of gatekeepers that Bitcoiners have been fighting against for years. And the truth is, we have a centralized media system, just as we have a centralized financial system with equally corrupt outcomes. And so we just watched the movie business, where a smaller and smaller handful of companies control what we get to watch and consume. They tell us the story they want us to hear, not necessarily the things like in I Hope, my film, that we need to hear. And that smaller and smaller group of companies has now gotten even smaller. We all just watched Skydance and Netflix have a war over the purchase of Paramount. What are they doing? They're reducing our options more and more. They're like Godzilla and King Kong fighting it out for their corporate profits and control, while all of us villagers are running around trying to dodge all the fireballs that are coming down. And I've had enough, and many of my colleagues have had enough, with a system where we work hard, we want to tell the public things, I want to reach the public, and yet the gatekeepers are in the way, not letting material that vitally concerns the public get to them. So it was with that sense of outrage and, to a degree, helplessness that I heard that Jack Dorsey was someone very committed to freedom, very committed not only to financial sovereignty, but to the hand-in-glove relationship that exists between financial sovereignty and freedom of information, freedom of speech, freedom for all of us, as citizens who were told we live in democracies, that kind of freedom. And because I'd heard that about Jack, I frankly went to him. I didn't know him, but I found my way to him and said, Jack, I've got this problem. They don't want to show our film. Can you help? And I think deep down, I was probably asking him for money. I just thought, maybe I release this myself and I get some right-thinking person who has the resources to do that. And I knew that Jack was very good at getting the public to communicate with each other. That was obvious from Twitter onward, that he's in the business of community. And I was very moved by that. And when I went to him, I guess I maybe should have expected it, but he said, well, if I just give you money for your film, then I'm just another oligarch, controlling the system in my way. What you need to do is get this to the community of people who care about it and bring them in on your film. Make them a part of what you're doing. And that was the Bitcoin community. And he really educated me that day about the incredible shared history between Bitcoin and WikiLeaks. I'd known that in 2011, when the US government blocked WikiLeaks from getting donations from the public using fiat, whether by credit card or banks or PayPal or whatever else, they had done a complete embargo to try to destroy WikiLeaks. When Julian Assange announced that WikiLeaks would now take Bitcoin, he taught me that that was a founding moment. It rescued WikiLeaks because WikiLeaks desperately needed that public funding to keep doing the public service of giving us the info we need. But it also was a proof of concept in the early days for Bitcoin to show that Bitcoin promotes freedom. It was perfectly positioned to promote the freedom that the US government was trying to block. And so Jack said, make your case to the public. And so it was Jack and I at Las Vegas doing that fireside chat where I was extremely moved to have him there with us, really advocating for the freedoms in all this, but really also advocating for a new way of trusting each other, citizens, to get our movie out to the world. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, 100%. I was very, very intrigued by the fireside chat. And I've been saying this for a while, that amongst us Bitcoiners, we do really kind of communicate and live in an echo chamber. And, big shout out to Jack Dorsey for bringing you to us, because it does, cross the divide between a bunch of different worlds here. And also to add on what you said, as most of us, our audience knows, it wasn't just a proof of concept. It was one of those defining moments that really made Bitcoin what it is today, where Satoshi moved away from the Bitcoin project because of all the heat. And that's one of the most beautiful aspects about Bitcoin. There is no controller here because of what we saw with the WikiLeaks. So there's just so much symbiotic parallels between the WikiLeaks story and the Bitcoin story and this movie that you've created. So how about we step back a moment? I'll play the second trailer, and then we'll start getting into the calls of action and what you really need from the Bitcoin community. So here's the second trailer, guys.
Shut it down. Shut it down. It is time to shut down this terrorist website, WikiLeaks.
My name's Jen Robinson. I am a lawyer defending journalists.
Can you hear me?
Julian Assange was described as the most dangerous man on the planet.
When Julian Assange entered our embassy in London, we knew what we were facing.
Is Pamela Anderson in love with the most dangerous man in the world?
I thought sometimes he might have been a little paranoid.
But of course it was right to be paranoid, because a fight with the Pentagon only ends one way.
WikiLeaks ought to be charged with treason. That's what they've done.
I investigate torture, but I didn't expect to find anything.
Why is my story important? I'm part of the team that tortured Julian Assange.
Hands off.
The
question is, when we have been lied to, would we rather not know?
Okay, incredible. I'm starting to get the goosebumps watching the trailers again. Okay, so they got the broad idea of what the movie is. Our audience got the story of how you ended up with Bitcoiners through Jack Dorsey. They got the story of it being stopped. So what do you need from Bitcoiners, and how can the audience help you spread this $6 billion man movie documentary about Julian Assange? What is the call of action here? Why does the audience need to care, and how can they help you?
This is fantastic. Thank you. We are really looking to involve Bitcoiners as partners in what we're doing. We are inviting Bitcoiners to become Bitcoin producers on the movie. This has never been done in Hollywood before. And we think it's absolutely groundbreaking. And it really came from what Jack taught me. When Jack got almost choked up when he talked about the way Satoshi had, in a way, martyred himself and stepped away. And he spoke with equal admiration of what Julian Assange had done. And he said, you have to understand that there is a whole subset of the Bitcoin community, the very same kind of people who rescued WikiLeaks once upon a time, who will understand that this cause is the same as their cause, that the cause of financial sovereignty and the cause of freedom of information are exactly and beautifully and importantly linked. And it is to those people that you want to show the movie. And that grew into the idea of building a community, kind of building an army for the film, not just in kind of some token way. When people become a Bitcoin producer on the film, they get a lot of benefits. We give a lot of goodies. But the real thing we're doing is inviting you to be part of what we're doing, because we think we're trying to break ground in how any movie can come out, that a cool community of people can care about something and can get it out to the public. And so for 0.01 Bitcoin, we ask people to come on board, and we intentionally priced it in Bitcoin. This is not a fiat game. This is a Bitcoin action that is only for Bitcoiners. That means that at the credits of the film, you get to see that you were part of the making of the film. You actually get an official Bitcoin producer credit on the film, but that's more than just a token. You can show your date. Hey, look, I'm in the credits. It's much more important. We are actually trying to involve you now on the ground floor of what we hope is a kind of a movement. We're building it while we're going. We're trying the best we can to kind of put it together as we go to make an end run around the gatekeepers and basically prove that the gatekeepers are not necessary. And that if you stand in our way, we, the community, will bring the film out to the public. Because what a Bitcoin producer does by paying into this kind of a crowdfunding exercise that we're doing is they are essentially paying it forward to give us a war chest to get the film out wide and to get the film out and self-distribute it, because the distributors have failed us. So Bitcoin producership, when you join it on the film, if that's something you're comfortable with and want to be a part of, we want you. We have Zoom calls. We have all kinds of activities that we're inviting people to join us in that help us strategize getting the film out to Bitcoiners and also beyond, to the regular community of people who may not be as tuned in as Bitcoiners are, to these ideas of centralization and its perils. And so that's really the main call to action, is come to our website, the6billionman.com, where we tell you a little bit about this. And we really invite you to join us. And we're having a watch party, a private watch party, where Bitcoiners get to see this film before the whole world. So if you become a Bitcoin producer on the film, on the 27th of June, it's a Saturday afternoon, Eastern time, but we tried to make it a good time for everybody if we could. You get to watch the film with fellow Bitcoin producers in this kind of synchronous watch party. But that's really just the beginning. That's the beginning of our step-by-step release of the film broadly. And we want Bitcoiners to be a part of that. We want Bitcoiners to be an army with us of getting this out to the world. So how could you how do you self-distribute this if it's not going to get on Netflix or Hulu or the more traditional streaming platforms? How does that self-distribution work? Well, it's actually really interesting. We are self-distributing, and we're not alone. More and more films are starting to do this, and I think it's going to become a wave of the future, because when the mainstream dinosaurs fail you, us little gazelles running around the ground, we get creative and we figure out ways to get things to people, and we live in the internet age. So setting up a website and getting people to feel comfortable coming there with a secure pay system, just like Zapright, which is what we use, offers things like that. We have the ability now as never before to show the movie to people. And so first of all, we can do wide releases that way. You may remember Louis C.K., after he got banned, put out a comedy show that he brought directly to the public on his own website, and it was hugely successful. And I think it was really a warning shot to the mainstream gatekeepers that they were not going to succeed in keeping him down. Well, that was his story. Our story is that they're trying to block the same story that the gatekeepers once almost made not happen, meaning they tried to kill Julian Assange once upon a time. Now they're trying to block us from telling the story about it, from telling the story about how Bitcoiners saved WikiLeaks and other parts of the story that the world needs to know. It would do very good public relations for all of these issues, for human rights, for Bitcoin, for the decentralization of media, the decentralization of finance. Well, those in power don't want that. So those of us who are self-distributing have more power to do that than ever before. And one of the things I was so inspired by when I met with Jack the first time, and it has continued, is his belief in the public, his belief in Bitcoiners as a community who care. And are there Bitcoiners who are just speculators? Of course, there's a bell curve in anything. But there's a remarkable population of Bitcoiners, and we are already seeing it. We have been amazed by the groundswell of interest among Bitcoiners to join what we're doing. And I know that for some people, the price point may be too high. We still want you to reach out to us because we have other releases that will come down the pike that might be more possible for you. But the Bitcoin producers are the ones who make that possible. They help us pay it forward so that people at lower price points can see the movie ultimately to a completely wide and public release. And some of that will be theatrical, because we'll do a theatrical release later this year. And some of that will be obviously digital and in a bunch of fora that are perfect for showing this exact kind of film.
Absolutely incredible. I know our audience is going to love this. So obviously, Bitcoin has been a huge part of the WikiLeaks story, and now it's becoming part of your story. So I know our audience really loves when we like to call it the orange pill story, where you're maybe a little bit skeptical about Bitcoin, and then something happens and it finally clicks for you. And it seems like you are living through that story currently right now because of you reaching out to Jack Dorsey and how the community has embraced you. So I would just, before we wrap up, would love for you to talk about that a little bit for the audience, because I know our audience just loves to hear these.
It's happening on the fly. You're watching it as we speak. The truth is, I'm in some sort of metamorphosis, because when I started, I didn't really know anything about Bitcoin. I didn't even know it was different from crypto. I just thought it was all one world. I really didn't know what Satoshi had done. I didn't realize how visionary that act of defiance against the dollar and against the U.S. federal control over monetary policy and the way our lives are manipulated. I hadn't understood that, and Jack really brought me up to speed, and I've now met such a wide community of very, very bright Bitcoiners who really do seek a better world through decentralization, that in a way I'm like the best kind of awakening cheerleader, because I didn't know anything about this, and now it's all I talk about. And of course I meet people who say, Bitcoin, isn't that kind of dark and shadowy and this and that and whatever, and they give me the PR that they're used to hearing about Bitcoin. And I'm not there to tell them, oh, the whole world is different than you think. But I am there to tell them, maybe you should look twice at Bitcoin. Maybe you need to look again, because what I'm experiencing, and I had it at the Bitcoin conference, was I'm meeting people profoundly concerned with human rights, profoundly concerned with how their money can participate in the shaping of human rights conditions in the world. Well, that matters a lot to me. That's what I do. I always focus on human rights and trying to make lives better. And I am learning on the fly and trying to share that with people as I go, the way that Bitcoin fits into that. And I believe, thanks to Jack and now others, there is a really strong harmony between those of us who care about a better future and those of us who have been probably pretty pioneering in being concerned about the way our money works. And I'll continue to spread that message. And by inviting people to join us on the $6 billion Man as Bitcoiners, I'm trying to really bring people into my fold who can continue to educate me and help me get the message out wider to the Bitcoin community and pat them on the back for what they're doing. Keep doing it. The world needs you. Those of us, we really want people in the Bitcoin community to educate us about how finances can be misused to make the world worse. And at the same time, we also want Bitcoiners to help us spread the word in the non-Bitcoin community to get more people aware of this. And we believe this movie, where human rights is so at the center of it, and it makes your heart cry to watch some of it, that passion can be mingled with an understanding of the role that Bitcoiners played once upon a time and that they're now playing again to protect the public's right to know. And that's why we invite you to become a Bitcoin producer. Join us, come to the private watch party at the end of June, and then beyond that, help us put it in movie theaters, help us get it to other people and pay it forward. So if you like it, we ask you to let it be possible for others to see it, and then we can really spread better understanding in the world.
Absolutely love that story, Eugene. First of all, kudos to you for making the documentary. It looks amazing. I wasn't actually in Vegas, so I'm just seeing the trailers. And I'm like, man, we got to get this out. But also, I love just how you're saying, like, I'm living through that Bitcoin story, and it is very interesting because everything you say, we and our audience, this is like what we believe. And it's so interesting to watch people go down that path and be like, oh, wait, there's more people that believe what I believe and what I'm interested in. But for the longest time, they have been characterized as these crazy crypto, lunatics and a lot of bad press. And now that you're kind of experiencing the community, you're like, oh, wow, like this is actually amazing. There's a lot of people that really do care about everything that I care about. And it's really awesome to see Bitcoin be a part of your journey while you try to tell Julian Assange's story. Bitcoin is amazing.
Can I add one comment to that?
Yeah,
it really inspired me what you said. I can't tell you enough how important it is also, and I think I can speak for Jack in this as well, because it's been the nature of our dialogue, how important it will be for the world to see a successful movie release that bypasses the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers are long overdue. The media companies that don't let us see the things we should see, and they're using algorithms to track what we think and figure out our habits and feed us addictions. That's not healthy. That's fun. You can watch it. You can binge watch all that, but it's called binge watching for a reason. That's servicing addiction. What I want to do is give people things they need to know to really be engaged athletically in the world. If you want to care about the world, if you have kids, if you have loved ones, and you're worried about things that are going on in the world and you want to shape it, like, in a democracy, then we beg you to join us in this and help not only this movie get out there and tell the kind of truths that it wants to tell, but be a demonstration project for many more movies to come, that you don't have to bow and stop because the gatekeepers don't let you in. To be honest with you, a couple of the gatekeepers have now approached us in little ways because they're getting nervous. And I think that's great because they're nervous that we are reaching directly out to the public to ask the public to join us in this mission. And they should be nervous.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. Eugene, before I wrap up, let's do one more plug for the website so that people can, reach out if they got inspired with with our conversation here. And then the last call of action, and then we will wrap up today's show. So floor is yours. Final message to the audience. Take it from here, Eugene.
The final message is we are building this thing as we're doing it, and we really invite you to join us. It's not just a token. It's not just that you get your name in the credits of a movie, which you do, and you better get ready to make your IMDb page. But it's bigger than that. It's that's something that symbolizes our desire to have you with us, shaping what we're doing. Because the only way we're going to make a success of this is if we reach the Bitcoin community in the deepest and most sincere way, understanding how to fit in groups all around the country and all around the world where Bitcoiners gather together. And that action, that has to be a collaboration between ourselves and people in the Bitcoin community who can advise us. And so when we invite you to become a Bitcoin producer, it's the beginning of a relationship where you're really part of the army we're trying to build to make this film a success and then have others follow it so other people can take courage from our example. So the $6billionman.com, please come and visit us. It's all fully written out, the $6billionman.com. simplybitcoin.com, and you can join us there. And you can also let us know if you'd rather be at a lower price point, or it's not something you can do right now, but you have an idea for us. Bring it on. We want everybody involved.
Let's go. Well, Eugene, I'm inspired here now today. This is just seeing you go through this process. This is what we have always hoped for this show to be, is reaching out outside of just the Bitcoin community and bringing different voices into the community so that the world can see why we do what we do. It's been a bear market here for us on the show, so we've really only been talking to Bitcoiners. So I truly enjoyed this today with this interview with you, because I can tell it's new for you, but you're also like, wow, there is a whole world out there, and my dreams can be fulfilled through Bitcoin. What I want to do in the world can be fulfilled through Bitcoin, and that's one of the messages I constantly talk about on this show. Like, it's not just about getting rich here. It's about doing something productive that can change the world for the better moving forward. And I think you're a living example of this. So kudos to you, Eugene. Guys, you already know the deal. Make sure you go to the $6billionman.com. Like Eugene said, sign up. Maybe the 1 million sat price point's a little too high for you, but if you've been inspired, definitely reach out. The trailers look amazing. So Eugene, again, congratulations on making the film, and I wish you the best. I hope the community gets behind you, and I can see this in the theaters as well. We can bring the family, watch it in the theaters, and maybe it could be a catalyst for a cultural moment here for Bitcoin, and of course WikiLeaks in general. So again, thank you so much for coming today. But we got time. If you want another last minute chat to the audience before I wrap up.
I never have enough talking about this. One of the most inspired things I've ever done. Ever since Jack put this idea in front of me, I don't just have a movie on my hands. I have a potential movement. And that movement can be led by Bitcoiners as the visionaries that they are. And they can show that to the world by helping us get the film in front of people, thanks to Bitcoin. And just as Julian Assange once took Bitcoin and it enabled WikiLeaks to survive, now the film about Julian Assange is being helped by Bitcoiners. And we've already been so touched by the outpouring we've had of Bitcoin producers who have already joined us. We just want to swell the ranks and give ourselves the war chest we need to get it out to the wider public. But also, the entire experience, as we start to tell the world about it, is an amazing Bitcoin story. And it does amazing good for helping the public understand why you all have been involved in this Bitcoin for far longer than I have. But I'm a good normie. I'm figuring it out, and I can kind of catch up a little bit and try to share this with people, and I'll do the very best I can. So please join us, and thank you again for the time today.
No worries, Eugene. Eugene, I think at this point you are no longer a normie. You are just a new Bitcoiner. Okay.
Okay.
You're a
very
new
kind.
Bitcoiner. You have left the normie ranks. You are a new Bitcoiner. But man, really inspiring. I'm really glad we brought you on today. So thank you so much, Eugene. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Awesome. Okay, guys, you already know the deal. It's the end of the show here. And that was awesome. Okay, that was awesome. Yes, actually, we've been doing pretty good here on the show the last 2 days. We had Lauren Rodriguez yesterday, Privacy Focus. Now we have Eugene doing a Julian Assange movie. Feeling pretty good about this week. All right, guys. Anyways, I will actually, full disclosure here. I hope I don't get sick on you guys tomorrow. I don't know if Nico's coming back tonight. I will reach out to him right when I get off. Hopefully it was just like a 1 day cold thing. All I'm saying is I really hope there's a show tomorrow. If I am sick in bed, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the show. So I know we try to keep the train going 5 days a week, but I'm just forewarning you guys. Okay. I'm going to do my best to be here tomorrow, but we shall see. I don't know. I don't know what's in the future here. I don't have a crystal ball. So hopefully this cold is over for me and tomorrow I can come in here and we'll be good. But I'm just warning you guys. Okay. I don't know what the logistics are here. I will do my best to get you a show. Anyways, guys, I really appreciate you. Oh, wait, actually, one more thing. Before I sign off for today, I do have to tell you about Mining Disrupt, the largest Bitcoin mining conference in the world in Miami, Florida, July 21st to the 23rd this year. If you want to learn about mining, if you want to learn if there's still an opportunity in mining, if you want to just up your game about Bitcoin mining, or, hey, it's going to be in Miami, so I'm going to be there. If you want to come hang out with your boy, we're going to Mining Disrupt July 21st to the 23rd this year in Miami, Florida. Scan the QR code, use the promo code simplybitcoin to get 20% off. And that's today's show, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Well, actually, hopefully I see you tomorrow. Hopefully it was just like a 24-hour thing. But anyways, peace out, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Make sure you buy some Bitcoin and take that Bitcoin off in exchange. All right. See ya.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.